Good morning, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for the 5th of June, Sunday the 5th of June, 2016. And we have something to talk about here this morning in the extreme southern Gulf of Mexico, right on top of the Yucatan Peninsula's northern side. Invest area 93L. And what does that mean? Well, that's basically the area of interest down here that the Hurricane Center has been monitoring, with a high chance of formation into a tropical depression or a tropical storm over the next several days, and I think it's well on its way. In fact, the National Hurricane Center will be issuing advisories on Tropical Depression 3 any moment now, even as I am recording this, so maybe we'll go back in just a minute and see if the advisory information is out. While we're waiting for that, checking out the loop, let's see which one of these will be the best. Look at the Gulf of Mexico. I know it's in here somewhere. The animated satellite loop here, the visible satellite, we go from nighttime, which is, if it'll do it, there, to the daytime. And you can clearly see counterclockwise rotation right in here. There's the low-level center, east side convection associated with it, which is typical of a system that is not going to strengthen much and that is not strengthening much as it is. However, there is enough organization and deep thunderstorm activity with it that it is now Tropical Depression number 3. But also you see this right here, very strong southwesterly flow cutting across the Gulf of Mexico. There's only a small area of favorable upper level winds in here, and then as the system turns the corner and heads towards Florida somewhere, it will encounter these upper level winds across this alleyway here and not really have much of a chance to intensify. You can see the track forecast in excellent agreement from most of the models on a Florida landfall somewhere along the eastern panhandle up here in the Big Bend region, and that's for the center of the storm itself, the low pressure center, the geographic center, a point on a map. This does not tell us where the impacts are going to go or how large the system is, and that is different. So we'll talk about the impacts in just a moment. The intensity guidance, for the most part, fairly low. Some of these are getting kind of wild here at a Category 1 hurricane. I would ignore that. I don't see evidence from the wind shear perspective. I think the upper level winds are going to be too strong for this to become much more than maybe a 50 to 60 mile per hour tropical storm, but that's going to be limited to these deep thunderstorms that develop mainly out over the water. Coastal areas could see 40 to 50 mile per hour winds, maybe a gust to 60. That would surprise me. The biggest impact from this, I believe, is going to be the heavy rainfall for parts of the Florida Peninsula over here, and the possibility of severe weather, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Water temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico, not an inhibiting factor at all. Right here close to the Yucatan, they are slightly below that threshold, or close to it anyway. But up in the open Gulf here, the southeast Gulf and beyond, water temperatures 28, 29 degrees Celsius or so. So they are very warm. That certainly is not an inhibitor. But as I mentioned, the upper level winds, I believe, will hold this back. The vorticity signature, or the how round does this look, or bundled, and it's starting to get there. It's not completely odd shaped, kind of like this feature leaving the Texas coast, for example, or this out over the open Atlantic. This would be the leftovers of Bonnie for those that are tracking that still. It's just a remnant low, no more worries from it. But the system here, TD number 3, I guess you could call it officially now, starting to take that shape. So the upper level winds, as I've been talking about, right over the system itself, not too bad, but farther to the west from there, yeah, they're pretty strong out of the southwest. Some of these winds 35 to 40 knots in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And this is where we're talking about 100 millibars, 250 millibars, 350 millibars, and the ranges between those. What is that? Well, those are the layers of the atmosphere. And so we have this deep layer shear. The shear is cutting across several layers of the upper part of the atmosphere, and that will help to sort of stretch this system out and keep it from centering itself right over the low pressure area at the surface and it should keep it from intensifying into a hurricane. So let's go back to the home page. Yep, there it is. Tropical Depression 3 just came out. So let's look at the forecast graphic for that. And let's look at the 2-day if we can do that. There we go. 3-day outlook. Because once it gets out in the Atlantic, no big deal, right? All right, so look at this. Interesting up here, even along the South Carolina coast. Anyhow, they forecast this to come up into the Florida Big Bend area, so not far to the east of Apalachicola, for example. And then you have a tropical storm warning in effect for a good deal of the west coast of Florida and along parts of the Big Bend area. And so that's interesting. Let's go in and read the public advisory. This is coming out literally as I'm recording this. So tropical depression forms over the southern Gulf of Mexico. And here it is right here. A tropical storm warning has been issued for the Gulf Coast of Florida from Indian Pass to Inglewood. All right, so the forecast for this, let's see if the discussion is out. And it is, and they are forecasting it to reach, after it leaves the Atlantic side, 60 miles per hour. But before landfall in Florida, upper 40s to 50s, so that was a good guesstimate from me. And this is the interesting part here. The primary hazards with this system are expected to be flooding from heavy rain and some coastal flooding from storm surge. So those impacts will become clearer as the hours wear on. And in a subsequent video blog, probably early tomorrow morning, I can outline that even better for you as we know more from the National Weather Service products that will come out. So let's look at why this is going to be the way it is. This is the GFS from early this morning, and basically the surface map. Here's our low pressure area right here sitting over the Yucatan, and you notice it initializes it pretty well with all the convection over here on the east and southeast side. So if we go through the next 48 hours or so, watch how this comes up. There it is right there. And again, most of the shower and thunderstorm activity still staying on the eastern side. And as we move through time here, 27 hours out, so this will be tomorrow. So by tomorrow, mid-morning, some of those effects, strong southerly wind flow coming into the Florida west coast, Tampa Bay, and points north, heavy rains and squalls moving in these bands. But the low pressure center itself kind of hanging back here, and all the weather, if you want to call it that, in a comma shape, more typical of a winter type storm. It's still tropical, don't get me wrong, but this looks like more of a winter type storm in its structure, with the low pressure center up here at the top and then the heavy weather in a comma shape instead of completely wrapped around like we would see in a hurricane. And the reason is those upper level winds, which I'll show you in a moment. So finally, at 36 hours, it's approaching the Florida west coast. This is very heavy rainfall in here, and indicated by the model. Strong 40 to 45 knot winds coming into the coast of Florida. So your storm surge prone areas and the shallow waters down here, that's a problem. They're going to be impacted, so you need to be prepared for that, especially boating interests. And then finally, as we go through the late afternoon on Monday, the good deal of the central Florida peninsula up here, Orlando, Tampa, and points in between over to the east coast. Heavy rain, thunderstorms, the possibility of severe weather, and then it tries to jump over the peninsula and stay intact. And the Hurricane Center has it closer to South Carolina. So this is going to be interesting to see if we get any warnings or watches that go up for parts of the Carolinas. More on that tomorrow. So this is the surface map. What does it look like on this map right here, the vorticity signature that I was talking about? Well, we can see that in the model field. This is where it is now. And you can see it doesn't look very well organized at the 850 millibar level. This is now going up 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. And as I just move through the frames, you can see it rotating. Certainly, you can see the counterclockwise rotation with it. But it never really develops that perfect round look. Tries to right up here near landfall. Probably more interaction with the energy coming in from the atmosphere than anything else. Injecting some of that energy in there, if you will. Baroclinic forcing, we call it. And then it tries to jump the coast there and head out to sea. At the 200 millibar level, way up at outflow level where the strong winds are, Again, right now where it's located, not too bad for the upper level winds, but as we move through time, watch what happens. You won't see the low in here, but I'm going to show you where it would be at 36 hours, for example. The low pressure area forecast to be about right in here at this time frame, the center of the low. And remember, all that heavy weather extending out over this way at this point in time at the surface. But then look what's going on up above. Very strong southerly to south-southwest and then southwest flow. Somewhat divergent, that it is spreading out a little bit. Let me take this away and show you again. There is a little bit of a spreading out of the winds in here. They're not all parallel. You see some of them are going off to the east a little bit, and some of these are going more to the northeast. So that will allow for a little bit of lift in the atmosphere, for some favorability, and therefore it should make landfall as a tropical storm. But it's just not going to be the typical well-developed type, and it shouldn't reach hurricane strength. But you know what? For you folks in Florida, that doesn't matter too much. Rain is rain, and there's going to be a lot of that coming. Storm surge is storm surge, whether it's pushed by the winds of an ill-formed tropical storm, a nor'easter, or a Category 5 hurricane. It's still water that inundates the coast, and you need to be prepared for that. Your local National Weather Service offices will have great information and local information coming out. So be sure to search weather.gov, put in your zip code, and you can find out all the local information you need to know. We also have, for you on the go, we have our app, Hurricane Impact, and anything that we post will go into there, either in the blog, the video section, or on the social media side. Example, our Twitter feed updates as soon as I put something in there, and it's right there in our app. So you can search Hurricane Impact, 2 words, on the App Store or on Google Play. I will stay on top of this, be tweeting out information regularly, and then another full blog post tonight, followed by another in-depth video discussion tomorrow. A lot going on here, and it's only 5 days into the hurricane season. All right, have a good rest of your Sunday. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com, and I'll talk to you again here tomorrow morning.